Hello, everybody. I am Kara Bundy Dunn, the host of the Energetics podcast, and I am so pumped. I have my Australian friend, Peter Williams, with me on the pod. He is a globally known medium. He sells out live events all over Australia and other parts of the world, I'm sure, too, Peter. He's a spiritual and conscious living leader, speaker, mentor, and host of his own podcast called Inna Powa. And he's also the author of a book called Searching Spirit. And I am so pumped to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And it's like, we're finally here. We're here.
Yeah, I know.
What?
We've been like scheduling and rescheduling and him and me and all these things. And it just meant that we were supposed to do it today. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. And it's just great because like already, like it always happens. It's like, I've been saying, Kara, hit the record button. There's too much good shit here. You got to hit record.
Yeah, so we were chatting ahead of time and I was like, oh my gosh, we're both dropping all these wisdom bombs. Our team's here, we're rocking it, and we're not even sharing it with all of you. So we decided, I have a whole bunch of questions prepared, but we decided we're just going to rock it. We're going to free flow. We're going to share things back and forth, and hopefully you all will be in for a treat to get to experience Peter because he's amazing. And he's my go-to energy expert, I have to say.
Oh, no, thank you. It was lovely. It was honestly, it was so nice because I remember meeting you, well, kind of more or less like seeing you in my line of sight in BBD Live going back in December. And then it was like more in April that we finally got to connect and actually like connect and have a chat. And that was like, yeah, it was really, really good to, because and you know what was so funny? And for people who are not aware of it, well, we'll just go with it. You know what the most funny thing was? I know you'll get a laugh out of this. So by the end of that retreat that we were at in April, and I was sitting there, and this is like on the last day, this must have been close to 3 a.m. And I was sitting with like Jenny, so James's partner, and she's like, Peter, no way, I just found out you're psychic. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh my God. I'm like, Jen, I'm like, what rock have you been living
Yeah. He's like, Anwin. So those of you that don't know, Peter and I met because we're in this business entrepreneurs community together. And, you know, like-minded psychic mediums, we kind of find each other. We like are energetically sucked to each other's presence. And the hosts of this Business by Design, James and Jenny, they're also very high frequency, high energy, highly intuitive peeps. Yeah, they're high vibes. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I love it.
So I was like drawn to Peter. Like, one, he had a margarita in his hand. I was like, you're my kind of guy. And two, he's a medium. And three, he is like really genuinely, you're known as like really understanding and harnessing energy. And I really needed your help because I'd been doing readings for 4 years. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. But after I do 3 or 4 or 5 readings, I get freaking tired. And I feel my human body feels so drained. And you were like helping me with so many things. That's how we kind of really got chatting.
Yeah, well, most people who do get to know me, that the one thing they find out very quickly is I'm very non-discriminative when it comes to spirits. So I tend to do the spirit work, obviously, with clients, and then usually afterwards, the other type of spirits come out. So it's always a bit of fun, you know. But the whole thing is, I do like people do go. I tell them straight up with the live events, "Oh, would you like a drink?" I said, "No, I'm working." I only ever. It's like I do make that very clear distinction, but you know, I do like a spicy margarita, I've got to say.
Yeah, a little jalapeno. I will say the only time I drink and channel is when I'm with my high school friends and they're not paying. Yeah. And I was like, okay, for the record, I can't promise you what will come out because I've had a half a bottle of wine, but you know, we'll roll and we'll see. But it's for some reason, it like, I actually feel like it flows easier, like I'm looser, but I would never do it like professionally, if that makes sense. Like when I'm with them and we're sitting around a campfire and we're chit-chatting, I was like, yeah, okay, let's see, you know?
It does happen because naturally, like anything, so alcohol in itself releases those inhibitions because it relaxes the mind and it slows our mind down a little bit. So we lose the critical thinking part of our mind. And so therefore that trust, you know, or AKA Dutch courage, as they like to call it. So and it's no different. I've found it's no different, like, because obviously I had a lot of time living overseas in Japan and China and Hong Kong. But what's interesting is when you're speaking in a different language or a second language that's not native to you, most people will be more willing to have a go at that language after a few drinks, because
Yeah.
again, it's releasing those inhibitions. Because the biggest mistake, and I think you would have found this with your probably journey and probably the people around you that you're helping as well. I've noticed in my world with a lot of people that I help, is the one biggest fear that most people have in an energetic or a channeling journey is they're afraid of being wrong.
Yeah,
They're
totally.
afraid of being judged. They're afraid of like someone looking at them and going, "Oh, that was rubbish." And then all of a sudden, your confidence gets shot, and all of a sudden you just go into massive self-doubt mode in your mind. And so any little bit of channeling that you're getting, all you're doing is question yourself, and technically you've lost the channel. So that's why I can totally understand. I started that way, and I was in Japan, and it's just happened. I was over there. I was like, no, you know what? I am here. This is my chance to be all of me in every single way. I was away from home. I was away from the people that I knew. This was a whole new landscape of people for me in Japan. And I had this moment where I'm thinking, no, I'm going to show this spiritual side of me. I'm going to show people that I can connect. I can show people that I can work with energy. And I was like, and I did. I had this wonderful, profound moment of, and I don't care. If
Yeah.
they like me, they will like me. If they don't like me, I don't care, in the nicest possible way. But it was
Yeah,
very
it's beautiful.
empowering. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very, very empowering. And, and it was just there. Like, again, it was always at the bar, and just like fortuitous chance, the bar's name was called God's Bar.
Of course it
um
was.
yeah, and every drink was the equivalent of like $3. So but that was my little like opening ground and channeling ground, to a point where
Yeah.
then obviously my lovely spirit team said, look, you've had the fun there, you know where you're at, no more of that. And ever
Yeah.
since that night, I was like, I don't do the same thing unless I'm with very, very close friends like your high
Yeah,
school group.
right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So they've known me since kindergarten, so they're not going to
Yeah.
hold it against me.
No, well, and you feel comfortable, and they know you
Yes.
well enough.
Yeah.
So, and you know where those kind of, boundaries will be. But of course, if you were starting to do that and someone was in the group that you didn't know at all, of
Yeah, I
course
would
you'd have to
never
be
do that.
mindful. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's number one, just basic respect. And then, of course, you've got the energetic aspect of it too. So, but I totally understand what you mean by like connecting in there with the high school friends. And it's
Yeah.
fun. Hey, look, that's a fun part. Because you know what it's like when you're professionally reading, it's tiresome, like you're saying. It's
Yeah.
tiresome. So, and then, when you do it professionally, sometimes it's like you just want to have fun with it, because that's how we started. Most people, when they
Yeah.
explore this side of themselves, it's the fun part.
Yeah, I
But
did it for
as
free for like three,
same.
4 years. And I was just like, I just want to help people. That's it. And
Yep.
then I was like, I feel called to like do this in a more serious way. So I'm going
Hmm.
to. But I was just like happy to help people. And like whenever at first when I would say things and I was, obviously you're just channeling what's coming through and you're like, these people are like, oh my God, how did you know that? How did they know that? All the things. And you're just like, oh wow, this is like really real. I'm not just making this up, man. It's
No,
like
and then,
really working.
but as you now know, like then you take, if you're brave enough, because if anybody's listening and you're like they're going, I'm delving into the world of energetics, I'm doing some readings or healings or whatever else, it's always a scary big ass step to go from this is a hobby and fun to I'm going to make this into a business, or I'm going to
Yeah.
start charging for this. That's always a big leap.
Did you have anyone when you did that? So I've had people in my friend group that are like, what's wrong with you? That's so unethical. How dare you do that? Like you shouldn't
Did
be
you
Yes, like you shouldn't be
really?
charging. Yeah, you shouldn't be charging people for spiritual work. It should just be, like things like that where there's like there's
Yeah.
this stigma in the world that's like
Mm.
you can't be in the spiritual space and make money, which I don't
I
believe in, but there's like that perception that's out
oh,
there.
it is huge. Number one, I feel really like I feel for you in that, because I'm very fortunate I didn't have that. When you told me, when you were just saying that, I was like, what? I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
was brutal
really?
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the other thing too, is I tend to find people who do that, is it's kind of like there's a very lack of understanding around the
Yeah.
whole bunch of it. And so I had a bit of the opposite. I had people going, Pete, you're doing so, like, I was, same thing. I just enjoyed helping people and I'd just do it. And then eventually people would say, but you should really, this is your time. You really are helping people.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of the opposite.
I had that too,
Um,
though. I did have that too,
oh,
where I had
okay.
a
Okay.
clients that, well, now they're my clients, like paying clients, but like one in particular, she had lost her son to an overdose, and she was a customer of my dad's. She got her hair done by my dad's salon, and he like bravely had said, "Well, my daughter kind of like
Wow.
is in this. I know this sounds crazy, but like whatever. If you want to talk to her." So she called me, and her son is so easy to channel. He is just like a powerhouse in spirit. So like I'll actually have to tell him like a day before, like, dude, I feel you. I got you. You got to come back tomorrow. You know, like him in particular. And so she eventually was like, I don't feel right not paying you. Like this has been a life-changing experience for me.
Right.
And she was suicidal thoughts, like all these things. And now she has built a foundation. She's helping people with addiction centers and how to
Love that.
find the right ones. Like she's totally used it as her life's purpose, which is amazing. But she was like, I don't feel right. Like I feel like I have to pay you. Like, and then I realized in that moment, like, I want to be of service to people, but there's an energetic exchange that happens when
Yes.
you're giving and receiving. And I'm much better at giving than receiving myself. So,
That is, I right there with you. That is the common theme with most people who are working in the energetic field. We are natural givers. We are
yeah.
natural healers. We just want to give and we want to help or assist in some shape or form. And we do that with usually any like disregard or thought of ourselves or our own energetic states. Hence, we will burn out very quickly, or, kind of like, I'm done with the world for a while. Have those moments. I don't know how many have had those over the years, but it's like it's you do learn it's an energetic exchange. It is not personally in my mind, I don't consider it the best form of energetic exchange. However, it is what is accepted and the norm within our current world. And that's why, and this is the world, this is the lovely construct that we have to live in. And so therefore that's what we work with, and that's what's fine. Like, honestly, I'd be happy if it was old days in which I probably had a good old past life back then. I know I've had, but if someone gave me a fish for the
Yeah.
for the reading, like, sweet, that feeds the family, no problem. But of course it's the same thing. But for anyone else who's kind of on that question of like, oh, do I or don't I? Like, I was very fortunate because my mentor at the time told me, said, look, if you're ever uncomfortable charging for your first like session or whatever else, then just ask for a donation.
Mm,
Because then you place that on the recipient. You're not in that position of like, because when you're first starting, I think sometimes it feels like a bit of a demand, like, this is going to be such and such dollars. So you can switch that by going, hey, it's just a donation. You can donate whatever you feel like and whatever else. Now, it is actually a very powerful process. I'm not sure whether you experienced it, Cara, but it's like, I know for a fact that the first time I ever got paid, I have never forgotten it. I did this exact process and I was in Japan, and it was really weird. I'm in Japan in a small town, well, near Fukushima. Most people know that place now for the wrong reason, but
right.
it was, yeah, but he's like, and I was reading for a Peruvian man. And so it was like the most random thing. Here's an Australian guy reading for a Peruvian guy in the middle of Japan. So, and I was reading for him, and it was lovely. Like, he handed over a 2,000 yen note, which is equivalent of like about $20. And he handed that over, and it's like, that was the first time I ever got paid for a reading. And I was like, that kind of
Mm,
shifted everything. And then what you find is, if you start doing that, you'll find that people will naturally increase the amount they give you. And that's how you know. And I've always said, and this has happened multiple times in my career, is where people are saying, oh, no, no, no. It's almost like the same thing when when your client was saying to you, I need to give you something. This is too, like, you've helped me
yeah.
so much. I want
Yeah.
to give you more. And we're like, usually like, "Oh, no, no, it's okay. It's completely okay," because we just want to help.
Yeah.
But then, no, I want to give more. I want to give more. And, I think at one stage, the most I ever got given was $300. And I
Oh,
didn't ask for it.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and you start go, well, and it's like, this is way too much, and they're like, no, no, no. And it's like, and then it's almost like you could just tell in their demeanor going, I need to accept this. I need to, our biggest lesson is like, I know it's been one of my biggest lessons is to accept and to
Yeah.
receive and go,
Hmm.
okay, thank you. That has been a real lifelong lesson for me. So I don't know whether you've found the same of like,
It
getting there.
has been my whole life. Like I've raised by very hardworking parents. I love them to death, but they never, my dad in particular, never wanted to owe anybody. He's like, no, 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 I'll pay. Whether he had the money to or not, it always was like, I just want to do that. So I'm like, well, thanks for instilling that in me, kind of, but also like,
Same.
so like now when I go to dinner and somebody like insists that they buy or buy me lunch or a coffee or something, my first instinct is still like, and then I have to be like, oh my gosh, thank you. That's so kind. I'll get you the next time. But my first initial gut punch is to be like, oh, I don't want you to have to spend your money on me. And I'm like, okay, you still have a little work to do. I now can accept it, but
But it's taken time, hasn't it?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that 'cause that's exactly my parents.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I don't want to owe anybody. Like, no, we'll sort that out. We'll do that. And I'm the same. I'm like, no, I'll pay for you. Because I love that. That's a part of
Yeah.
my personality. I love sharing. That's me sharing. You know, like I love an expense, but it's like I'm like, here's an experience. Like, no, every time I shout people, I'm like, no, because I'm loving this. This is me
Yeah.
enjoying it. I don't. It's almost like I think subconsciously I'm like, I don't want this to end, so I'll pay. So just keep those spicy margaritas coming. It's fine.
Yeah. Let's go. It's fun. Yeah. Well, we're going to be together in person. You're flying to the West Coast. I'm flying to the West Coast next week. So it's going to be very fun for us to be in person. So
Yes,
very
and
excited about that.
yeah, back to Cali, so not
Yeah.
in Arizona this time, so back in
Yeah.
California.
We're
Yeah.
going to be in California together very soon. Okay. So
Yes.
I really want to ask you. I changed the name of my podcast, so we're early into season 2 of this called the Energetics Podcast. So I truly believe like everything is energy, and a lot of people say that, but I absolutely want to know what you think that means. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, everything is energy or frequency. Like, how do you explain
Mm.
that to an average Joe when they're like, "Okay, what do you mean by that?"
Oh, look, be careful. Here comes the science buff in me coming out.
Oh, good. I love it. Give it to me.
No, I think most people get genuinely surprised. So when I have these conversations with people or after a live event or whatever else, like people get surprised. I'm like, I love science. I have always loved science. So it's really fascinating to have this like a super spiritual side of like, I need to believe in the unseeable and the untouchable and all of this. But then I was like, but where's the science? I want factual information. And the beautiful thing is science is actually really catching up to where we are at. And there's so much out there. And I think people get blown away when I start explaining things to them, going, this is actual fact. This is not made up anymore. So when we talk about energy, which I 100%, and I love the new name of the podcast,
Thanks.
because I was like, damn, I should have thought of that, you know? So, because that's when I say to everybody, like, it's all energy. And it comes back from some of the basic science principles that we've known for a long time. Like energy is neither created nor destroyed. So it's constantly like in circulation. We're also a part of that. But it is so, but again, like even on the basic science levels, everything has a vibration and a frequency. So, and of course, we just learn to kind of tap into that. And so, when it comes to explaining to people about what we deal with ultimately is energy, I explain to people in the sense of, well, you think about it like right now, you might be watching this interview or you might be listening to this podcast, but you're not plugged in anywhere. So where's that coming from? Of course, yeah. Well, that's the Wi-Fi. It's like, yeah, of course.
Wavelengths. Yes, I
It's
understand
waves.
sound. I get sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what
No,
people tell me.
but it's more than sound. Like, believe it or
Yeah.
not, the picture is being transmitted by, waves and whatever else. So it is all vibration and frequency. And ultimately, what we do is just we are like have massive inbuilt receivers like a radio station, and all we are doing is tuning into every specific frequency of whether it's going to be the person that we're reading in front of us in terms of more psychic energy, or whether we're connecting and channeling from the greater universe, whether it's going to be someone who's passed, or whether we're channeling more direct energy from that. It's all vibration and frequency. And all we are doing is adjusting, no different to the good old tuning dial that we have to whenever you are tuning into an old analog station. These
Yeah.
days, it's a little bit easier. Press a button and it seeks it for you, and it
Yeah.
finds and
I
but
do
we
you
do it
find
like I
this
said.
though? So like I was telling my husband this. So like the way, because he is somebody that had a really hard time with these gifts or abilities awakening within
Yeah.
me, and it's been years of conversations, and we have gone a long way. Let me tell you. But I was explaining to him, like, just not that long ago, I said, honey, it's like this. Like, I'm here, you're here, and your guides, loved ones, spirits, whatever are here. It's like a triangle. And I am like intercepting the flow of connection between me and between you and your team and me. It's like a triangle of energy. And I am like in there somehow able to grab little snippets of information within that. And it doesn't come to me in long sentences. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, it's like words, images, pictures, colors, feelings. It's like a whole bunch of stuff. And my team and I have learned what that means. Like what this symbol means, what this feeling means, like all of these things. I said, it's like I'm
Right.
getting little snippets of all this stuff. And it's my job to take it all in, interpret it, and then explain it to the person that
Yep.
I'm sitting and reading with. But that's how I explain it. I was like, think of it like a tube of information and energy flowing, and I'm able to go in there and grab parts of it. That's how I explained it to him. I don't know what you think about that.
Then that's a great explanation of a way of doing it. And like I look at it now, and like I kind of break it down a little bit simpler. I love that because we are the translator. That's all we are. It's like, and the energy or the energetic world is a language. It is a language.
Yeah,
And so the thing is, it's all about learning that language. And like you're saying, and it's learning that language in a way that works for you as an
exactly.
as an individual. I make a really big point of this with anybody who comes and learns with me. I'm like, I'm not here to teach you how to do something. I'm here to teach you how you are going to do it for you. You have
Exactly.
your own unique way. So, and I love your explanation there. If you look at it right now, we've both got headphones on. Okay. And the easiest way to describe it to people is let's go back 60, 70 years, or, getting close to 80 years. And what's the difference with Morse code? You have the headphones on. They're not words,
Yeah,
but yet
exactly.
they could be interpreted into either short phrases, longer sentences, or describe the whole situation from somewhere miles away, if not on the other side of the planet. And that was dot dot dash dash dot 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 dash dash. Like seriously,
Yeah.
like we've just got. Ours is not dot dot dash dash. Ours is like, bits and pieces of previews of CD albums and movies, and it's like, and people's stories coming through. Like we get
Yeah.
teaser trailers, and it's like, and that comes through, and we have to relay that. And we are just interpreters, we are translators, like you said, we are the person in between, and that's where the word medium comes from.
Yeah,
We are the
exactly.
person in the
In the
middle.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah, so two sides of the road, there's a medium strip. It's like we're the person in the middle that deciphers between the two.
So I have like a whole, like I'm learning new things all the time. Every time I do a reading for somebody too, like, new vocabulary things. But like even this morning I was doing a reading and they showed me 101 Dalmatians, like a
Yes,
Dalmatian.
yeah.
And then I was
Yep.
like, oh, and I had to realize they're wanting me to say the number 101. You know what I mean? And I was like,
Ah,
oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, I got it. I was like, puppy, I'm like,
yeah,
101. And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, okay, great. That's what I got from that. So, it's like,
yeah,
you kind of have to figure it out. Yeah.
it is. I mean, let's go back to the old Morse code, like dot dot dash dash. Like these certain phrases or whatever else, but then all of a sudden, like you might get dash 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 dot 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 dash, and like I've never heard that combination before. And then you have to go back and go, but there's a dog in there. There's colors. There's numbers. It's like what's the purpose here? And you have to then, with context, or
Yeah.
try to understand what's kind of coming around it. Now, you bring up a really valid point. You would have found this because uh, you would have noticed straight away the hardest part for most people on this journey in learning this language is when you are receiving things. it will mean most likely nothing to you, but you have no idea how
Yeah.
important one little detail will mean to the recipient.
Yeah, I have
And
learned the hard way to just say what they say. Because
yeah,
sometimes I'll pause and like I'm having this whole dialogue with me and my team in spirit, their teams in spirit, and I'll be like, I'm not gonna effing say that. Like, you want me to say that? I'm like, I'm not gonna say that.
no,
And they're like, you have to say that. I'm like, I'm not gonna say that. And then I do, and then like it means exactly what that was supposed to mean, but I thought it was gonna go way left and it didn't. And I was like,
yeah. Well, you do like it is tricky, isn't it? Because you can't like especially when I'm doing a live events, and I now make a point of telling all
yeah,
my audience. I tell my audiences like I like to keep things very lighthearted. I love high energy. I love fun energy, and I love getting the quirky spirits and whatever else in the information coming through. But even to a point where like I remember there was, and I usually introduce him, and because his name was Adam, and he came in his bath towel. And I have to admit, he was a ripped dude. I'm like, dude, you're embarrassing me. If people could actually see him, I know they wouldn't be looking at me. The attention would be on him. And it's like, he came in, and all of a sudden, like, I'm talking to him, I'm passing on this information, describing him, all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden, it's like no one's understanding the information yet. And like, I think, oh, he's had a fall, and there's a head injury and stuff like this. And all of a sudden, like, okay, and then just because this is me, I'm translating. So I have a beautiful live audience in front of me, but I have this half naked, really well cut man in the spirit world with me, and I'm translating. And he's got a personality. He's cheeky. I'm doing all of this now. I was like, oh, anybody understanding this? And they're like, no. Then all of a sudden, he just decides to take things one step further. He drops the bath towel. And so in the middle of this, I am literally like, I'm looking at you like at the screen right now, but technically my mind is actually looking at him. And
and
I'm
are you
actually having,
visually seeing head to toe?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. And so much that this is exactly how it happened. I'm looking at you kind of like as the audience, and I'm going, and like in my mind, I'm like, dude, I can't see that shit. And it's like I start putting my hand out, going, dude, and like I had to start explaining to people because, and he's looking at me going,
Yeah. Welcome to the party.
yeah, right. And I was like, so I'm putting my hand back there, and I'm literally going, dude, I can't understand. Like, what are you doing? And he goes, what's wrong, Pete? And all of a sudden, he starts wiggling his hips and starts doing the helicopter, and he says to me, he goes, what's wrong, Pete? I'm air drying. And so I repeated that because I'm in flow. I had no
Yeah.
time to, and I just was
Yeah.
like, as soon as I had said that, a lady knew. I just goes,
I
"Oh my
knew
god,
it.
he's mine, he's mine."
Yep.
And the beautiful thing it was like she said he used to say and do that all the time.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting. All these other details, she's probably sitting there going,
Maybe. No, maybe.
sounds like him, but I'm waiting
Prove
for this.
it. Prove
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I'm waiting for this detail. And I'm like, out of all things, I'm like, it's the helicopter move. I'm like, and she was hand straight up, and it was a beautiful, beautiful connection because he actually passed in the bathroom. That's why he had the bath towel.
Oh,
Um,
wow. It's
so
always like that, isn't it? Where you're like,
yeah,
I don't, and then you're like, oh, it needed to be exactly that.
yeah. So
Mine's
I did
usually
that.
around whether they want them to like get in the sack or get out of the sack. And I was like, I'm like, I'm not your sex therapist, but I'm just gonna say what they're telling me to say, you know?
And that's
Because
good. And that's me. We're getting to those moments going, how much do I relay here? Like, yeah.
and I think people think when you're going to go to a medium, like I call myself a spiritual medium. I bring in
Mm.
angel energy. That's just my vibe. And I think people are like, am I going to church? Like, what's this going to be like? And I was like, your team, your loved ones in spirit often keep not always, but they often keep, like, if they had a really sick sense of humor, they usually kind of do
Keep
in
it.
spirit too. You know, they kind of keep it, you know, so.
You get some, and it is, you are constantly on your L plates. You're always learning.
Yeah.
And like, you grow and you grow and you grow. And like, I don't know how many things I've learned the hard way as well. But I think realistically, you would have known this. But even though it does suck at times to learn things the hard way, but when you learn it, then you've really got it. The
Yeah.
understanding, and that's the implementation that's so important. You can go from course to course to course or to mentor to mentor to mentor, but without actually like the practice or without the
Hmm.
implementation, without real-time feedback between your team or your client and what's happening, none of it's really going to matter because you've got to figure out how it's going to happen for you. Because the
Yeah.
most, and I prove this all the time when I say to people, let's look at a couple of symbols, for example, and you're going, and you give people the example of like, dollar signs and money bags. And it's one I do give people. So if you saw this coming through, what would you think? What would your first thought? And you've got 10 people in the room and they've all given you a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it's flowing through you.
Exactly.
So it comes through you, so they will use what you have. Now, I love your Dalmatian experience because 101's a very unique number. A
Yeah.
very unique number. It's not like, it's 1111 or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's 101. So how are we going to get, like, Carrie here to go 101? And I love it because and I'd be right there with you going, okay, we've got Dalmatians, we've got black and white spot puppies, dogs. There's lots of dogs.
Yeah, I put the context together because it was like they were talking about an event this person was throwing, and they were giving me all these other details and then this detail, so I knew it had to do with either the ticket sales or the event in some way, shape, or form.
Cool.
And so I was like, here's what it is, and I was like, they're not giving me any more than that, so you'll know what it means when it means that. It might be that's how many people come. It might be that there's something with that number you're gonna do, but just tuck it away. And they said you'll know when you need to know, And sometimes I'm like, I wish they would give me more so I could like lay it all out on a silver platter for you. But they don't always do that either. Like they'll give you enough to help you on your journey,
And it's how, like, even for ourselves, like, have you ever
Yes.
had that reading, a session for yourself where you're going, come on, that is so cryptic. I need more clarity.
I kid you not. I did a channeling for myself this morning. And my team in
Spirit asking you this for a reason.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And my team in Spirit literally said, we're not going to bullshit you this time. And then they're like, we're never actually bullshitting you. However, we're going to shoot it straight because you can handle it now. And before, when we have given you that answer, you would have quit, and we didn't want you to quit. So we told you, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. Go. And then I was like, why the hell? It wasn't great. What do you mean? Go. And so it was a whole thing about a course I'm relaunching. And they're like, no, we're going to shoot it straight with you this time because you're in the space where you're ready. You can handle it. And your entire job is to not worry about the outcome. And if you would have done that the first time, you were too worried about the outcome. So we had to get you out of the energy of that. Like, that's really what they channeled to me. So I was like, oh, okay, got it.
I'll put my hand up for that. I love that you've brought this up because this was actually like ultimately what kind of brought me into the greater fold of obviously getting to America and obviously meeting yourself and other people was a part of this. And the energy so recently has been more clear on here's the way forward. Like the energy, it has lifted. Like I have never felt the energy so thick over the last 2 years, but April it started to change. And then in May got clear again. And then June, and especially in July, like, oh my goodness, those first 3 weeks of July were amazing, beautifully intense. The clarity that was coming through. And it's because we're ready. And it's so interesting because you say that because I channeled the exact same words. It's because you're ready. Yeah.
Oh, you got to be kidding.
No, I'll take a sip of it. I'll show you.
I know. I'll do the same. I'll say like in my journal. Like this is for those people who are watching. This is my channeling. Like when I channel, I draw like sketchy draw.
Oh wow,
whatever
you're a sketcher as well. Okay.
Yeah. But then when I get downloads from my team in Spirit, it's in like downloads, like automatic writing downloads. So that's where it was in there.
And I love that because it is so true because as you were saying, how your Spirit team was saying that I can only give this to you now because you wouldn't have been ready before.
Yeah.
And I think, because that's exactly what happened to me. Like, so I was doing it and you just kind of all of a sudden things just started to unfold and I had to, because it was in August 2022, I finished a live event, I walked off stage and literally Spirit just said to me going, you're done with this. That was the message. And it was like, so that was, but again, see, what's interesting is, take it from us guys, if you're listening and watching, when you receive your own messages, it's harder because you've got a lot more context to wrap around with it, which is not always good because it's like, so in that moment, I actually saw and took that as context in terms of my live events because that's when I had received the message. I'd just finished.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it wasn't. It was more about actually where I had been, the
content,
the membership, and the content. It's like no, and that's why it's like, even for me, the growth, like, it's energy now. Like, and I even had a beautiful direct channel, and my team was saying it's even time for, the human race to stop calling us a spirit,
Mm,
because they're like,
mm,
it further makes a barrier and making people feel like as if you have to have the ability or some level of gift or something in order to connect, when they're saying no, it's always there. Now, you and I both know that through our
yeah.
experiences. However, for the new person or the person who's just recently awakening to all of this, sometimes it feels it's like it's a barrier. And it's amazing. We put these words onto things
Yeah.
to create distance between ourselves and that level of energy.
Okay,
So,
legit. This is how this goes, right? So I did a download this morning. I did automatic writing, like, 3, 4 pages of it. Um, and I hadn't done one really the entire month of July. I've done meditations connecting with my team, energy, but not like actually I'm going to sit down and you're going to channel a
right.
message to me. I hadn't done that for like 6 weeks. And they said, "Welcome home. We are so happy that you are here. It is never too long and it is never too short."
Oh,
Because you're
yeah.
like, it's never too long that you haven't done this, and it's never too short that you haven't done this. You do it when you feel called to do it. Like, we're always here. We're always home for you.
And it's that word, home. Home is so, so important. And in my recent channelings, which has been beautiful, like, I've had to dub this person the professor, because it's like I'm sitting when I'm channeling and doing it, feels like I'm in a lecture. And
Mine's
it's
like
like,
that too. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I'm listening up. I'm taking
yeah,
notes.
it is, but it's really, it's not a boring lecture. It's a really you
Yeah.
feel like you're in awe of, like, I just need to sit and listen to this because there's something in this for me, and it just kind of keeps coming and keeps coming and
Yep.
keeps coming. And what's really interesting is because so I've just dubbed this person the professor because it's like relatively new. It's only coming through because I've been ready for it. And one of the things it says, it takes the bravest and most courageous of souls to venture into this space, because for once you do touch this space, you can never untouch it.
Yeah. Oh my
And that's
God.
what I love, that, because it's like, it's never too short, never too long. And I think this is a beautiful match. I know someone obviously listening or watching needs to hear this. If you've touched this space, if you've connected in some shape or form at any point in your life, and and life gets a hold of you, like the old good old 3D, like, it happens. That's what we're here for too. Don't forget
Hmm.
that. It's not to, but it's always there. And
Yeah.
once you've touched it, and then you got to come back to that. And that's just the frequency and the vibration and the energy that we were talking about at the very beginning, that you just have to lean into.
And I'm sure this is like this for you too, but I have so many people. Once I came out of the spiritual closet and really put myself out there,
Yeah.
like on full blast, all the social channels, all the things, not just like, if call her kind of thing.
Yeah.
So many people said to me privately, "I have to tell you something. I've never told anyone
Mm,
this." And hundreds and hundreds of conversations like this, but they hadn't told their spouse, their children, their friends, their anyone. And some of them are people in my life that, like, would allow people to kind of talk mad shit about me and not say anything because they just weren't brave enough to like speak up or
yeah.
defend or do anything. So they just didn't have that courage in them yet. But then to privately, they'll say, like, "I had a dream. My grandmother came in my dream. She told me this." And the next day, the exact thing happened. Or
Yeah.
I had this thing happen where I was driving a car and I immediately heard a voice loud in my head said, "Turn
Mm,
left." And I turned left and there was a giant accident and I would have died. Like, they're like telling me these things all the time, and like
yeah.
things they've never told anybody because they don't want to sound like a freak. But I'm like, well, I'm fine waving my freak flag. It's totally fine. So you're safe here. Come
Yeah,
on in.
and look, but I think that's the other thing too, and I think that's what kind of also drew me, because this may be something you can relate to. Did you find the journey somewhat lonely at points?
Right now, I'm in a very lonely season, but I don't feel alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's a very
it's
lonely season. I'm like very introspective and spending a lot of time with myself and very like alone with myself a lot. I don't feel lonely, but I do recognize that I'm currently in one of those seasons where I just enjoy being alone more than normal. And it's part of my expansion. So I'm okay with it. But I also know it's like not my job is not to just like sit in a little hermit hole and hang out with my team. I have to like go do the work, you know?
Yeah, and and that's mean because it is. I find when you like, especially let's go back to when you say because I know exactly. So Japan was my spiritual closet. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like,
Yeah.
hey
But
guys, I'm
but
on the
how long,
scene.
how long ago is that? Like 20, a
That's
long,
that's 20 that's 20 years ago.
20, yeah,
I
exactly.
was 21, 22 when I did that. I was very lucky, I think, because it allowed me to really embrace myself, my full self, at a very earlier age.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
but that's a journey in itself. That's a massive soul lesson if you're facing that. So like, you would have faced this because like you said you had to kind of
Yeah, mine was
you still
I was after 40. I was my early 40s and I was a chief sales officer of an ed tech company when it happened.
Now, what's really
Very in the
fascinating
corporate
is
world.
even though like it can happen at any point in your life, but I tend to find for a lot of people, if it doesn't happen at a younger age, it will happen around the 40 mark.
Yeah.
And but whatever that may be, but that's why I have said it a lot over the years because always tell people just because whatever age you're having your awakening, don't think of yourself as any less than anybody else because
I
I have
actually
seen.
think of it as a superpower that happened
Look,
to me
I do.
later, because I'm like, I have the ability to relate to the things that they're going through. I'm stressed. I'm working these crazy hours. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a this. I'm that. I'm a vice president of this. I don't. I feel so out of sorts. I lost my dad. I'm just so messed up. Like I feel lucky because I feel like I have lived that life and walked those shoes. And I think that was part of my journey to be able to relate to people in that way, where I'm like, I get the business world. I've been there. I totally understand. But you can coexist with that and be spiritually present. You can. I did it and you can
Boom.
too.
Oh, listen to that, people. That's a mic drop right there.
I
I
believe
love
it
that.
though. I
No, and
believe it,
it's
you know?
you can tell. I can. You're oozing that from every pore as you said that. That's why I'm like, I was loving that. I was like, oh, keep going, keep going. You're just like, it's in that, and it's 100%. And see, like even for me, like the other way around is like I come a little bit more from a slightly different angle, whereas I'm here. Hence, even my podcast is like Inner Power, is because I'm going, every single one of us has something unique to offer this world.
Absolutely.
And I believe that with every fiber of my being. And I look at it and going, because I was at a point, same thing, I was doing the good old corporate world, and I wasn't any like I didn't make anything long, but it was just in the moment of time for me in my life at that point. But I was working full time, but the hours I was working were like a full time job. Okay, you're watching the slow mo, but watching the but the whole thing is we're doing the full time job, so 40 hours. But then I had driving on top of that, and sometimes that drive would be 2 hours each way. So all of a sudden, this becomes a really long week. I was exhausted, I was burnt out, and even the money I was earning it wasn't great. It was really low income, and in that time and space, I went low. I really went low, and I knew something had to give, and it was getting very close to that thing that was going to give was going to be me.
Mhm.
And so that kind of woke me up to the fact of something's got to change. And
Yeah.
I was, it was hard because I knew at the time because my wife was, because there's a story behind it, but my wife was saying to me, we had obviously two young kids. And I was like, how do I get out of this? Because obviously we need to survive. We need the
Yeah.
money, that whole rhetoric. However, in my heart of hearts, I'm literally bleeding. I described it, and I've always described it, and I talk about it in Searching Spirit a lot because it was a pivotal moment, and it was like my soul was being sucked dry.
Yeah.
Just it was leaving me. I was like, the joy, the happiness, the love, everything that I had built was all being absolutely sucked out
That's
of
right.
me. And so that's when I had to make the decision. And I was lucky because I had the conversation with my wife and I said, I need to make a change. I know this transition may not be great because finding another job, whatever else. but I was really afraid of letting her down because I knew,
Mm-hmm.
had that responsibility.
Totally. I
But the
100% get that.
But the beautiful thing is, she goes, "That's okay." Like I had this massive conversation built up in my head. Going, she's, "Oh, we're gonna have to really work this out, and we're gonna have to do." And I was like, and then I think after like months of building this up in my head, I finally had the courage to have the conversation with her because I was at that point, and I'm like, "Well, you know what? I don't want to do that to my wife and my kids."
Yeah.
And it's just like, so the whole thing is, all right, we'll just have the conversation, and it was just beautiful because she goes, "Oh, okay." No, well, we'll make it work. And I'm like, it was just
That's
like,
amazing. Mine was smooth, but not quite that smooth.
okay. Well, I don't know how I could call mine because it was definitely not smooth because I was so in my head. It was more stress. I was just compounding
Yeah.
my own problem. And then as soon as my wife was okay, like things changed. And
Yeah.
that was a pivotal moment. Everything just started to line up. The energy started to flow.
Yeah.
Things started to happen. All of a sudden, I'm starting to put out there for readings again. All of a sudden, I'm being booked out. And I started doing some numbers and some calculations going, what am
You're
I
like, hey,
doing?
I got
Yeah.
this.
I'm like, what am I doing? I was like, even at like when I first started, even professionally, I was like $25 for half an hour because I was like, I'm going to get people in here. I'm going to show them who I am. I'm going to put my name, put my thing on the map, and that worked out. That worked out really.
That's what
really
I
well.
started at too, $25, but for an hour. For an hour.
Yeah. Oh, for an hour. Okay.
Yeah, but then I moved that pretty quickly, to be honest.
No, and
I was
did
like,
too.
okay, got it.
Yeah, because I said to myself, 6 weeks, I gave myself a plan and I did that. And then all of a sudden and I think I started hovering about like $60 for an hour, was about the norm. But even with that, I was like, wow, I'm doing this. Number one, I enjoy it. I love it. I love helping people. And it's like, wow. And I'm like, and I'm earning like way more than I was earning in the corporate job. And I was like, and I can earn the same amount in like 3 hours versus doing 8 hours plus 4 hours of driving.
And I love it.
And yeah, and it's like,
it's joyful.
I enjoy it. Yep.
So I knew I wanted,
yeah.
I knew I wanted to do this, but I was in the corporate world and my husband was a stay-at-home dad. So I was like, ooh, how are we going to do this?
It was okay.
Yeah.
Because my wife was at home. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And so, it was like March. So I started I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to run my own thing. I knew I wanted to be able to publicly share that I did readings. I work for a private company. The owners are very evangelical, conservative Christians. I guarantee I would have lost my job if they knew who I truly was. So I was hiding this whole part of me in order to keep the paycheck for my family. And that was very hard on my soul to like live a dual life in a way.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it was super hard. And so I knew I was ready to be done, but I wasn't exactly sure how it was all going to go. And they kept telling me like, don't quit your job, don't quit your job, don't quit your job. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't want to work for this guy. I don't want to work for this company. Like, I love the people I work with, but I don't want to work for somebody where I can't be myself. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm done. I'm so done with that season. And they kept saying, wait. And I was like, okay. So I did. And then I was like it was July of last year and I was ready to put my notice in. I'm like, okay, I'm really ready. I will offer going part-time for this guy, but I'm really ready. And they kept telling me yellow light, which is they speak to me in lights and it's pause, wait.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I did. And I am like a high performer. Like I am like achiever oriented in the professional world, like get shit done kind of lady. I've never been let go from a company, never, like always been the top performer, always a go-getter. So my husband's grandmother, who our daughter is named after, passes away and moves to the other side. And within an hour of hearing that news, I was called by my boss, who I reported to the CEO. And he said, Kara, we can't grow at the scale that we are anymore. And we're rethinking our strategy. And today's your last day. And here's a severance check. And I was like, oh, I was so happy. And he was like, you took that so well. And I was like, well, I was like, well, here's the deal. I think we're out of alignment. I don't think that I energetically align with you. And I don't think you energetically align with me. And I'm going to wish you guys the very best. And I'm going to go off. And I think it's probably time we parted ways anyway. And I think he was thinking, oh shit, could I have like just given her another week and I wouldn't have had to pay her a severance? But my team in spirit then said, like literally flashed the word, you're welcome. in my mind's eye. You're welcome. And I was like, oh, shit. Thanks for the money, man. And then I used that money to start my company.
Love that. And it gave you the
Yeah.
breathing space. It
Yeah. But
gave
then
you
I
that
also
breathing space.
did like talk to my husband and I was like, Mama needs health insurance. Like maybe we should like figure this out. And he goes, okay, all right. I'm like, if you don't go back to work now, when would you? And he's like, oh, fine. Okay, fair. So he made one phone call and got a great job. And we kind of flipped roles. And now I'm home every day with our kiddo. And I work, I work intermittently from school pickup and drop offs and make it work.
Yeah.
And like, it was literally like one phone call, and they made him an offer of exactly what he wanted. And I was like, who does that? How does that happen like that? And I was like, thank you, universe. Thank you. And it has made the transition for me to go full on into doing this work, helping people, coaching people, mentoring people. And I've been able to do it so effortlessly because like I'm aligned with the energy of the universe, I believe.
And you are aligned with the energy of the universe, but more importantly, what I'd like to point out, and I love it because you can see it. Like every time you talk, you can see it. You're aligned with yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Like in it, how you talked about like coming out, like it's so important to embrace all aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
And and it is that spiritual side for a lot of people. Unfortunately, like it's growing, which is great because more
Yeah.
and more people are becoming aware of it. But I still find there's a lot of people that are hiding behind or staying in that closet because they're afraid of what people are going to think of them or how
Yeah.
they're going to judge them. Now, don't get me wrong, I have been on the receiving end of a lot of that. A lot of that, in person as well as on social media, whatever else, because it's amazing. Even here, like, in good old Australia, like you mentioned the word, psychic medium. There's so many people that instantly judge you just because of your title.
Yes.
So, you do have to have some level of resilience, but
Yes,
it
you
comes
do.
with time. But I can only encourage, like, hopefully from these stories too, like, you just do it. Like, stop, because that's me. I love hearing stories like this. That stuff's like, you can't make that up. Like
No.
your husband
Wow.
making the call and going, he gets a job and the exact money that it was like, well, here we go. And it's,
He was like, that
you're
happened a little
welcome.
faster than I wanted it to. And I was like, babe, get back to work. Love ya. So, because he quit I've said this in my podcast before, but he quit during COVID because he just got so burnt out. He was a restaurant executive, and the restaurant world during the C word was painful. Masking up, suiting up, working 12, 14, 16-hour days. Like just, it was insane. He was such a shell of a person. So I was grateful that he was like, I want to sell my shares in this company. I'm done. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know it's not this. And so I was very grateful for him to come back to himself. And, but then after he was like happy and joyful, then I was like, okay, are you like ready to do something now? And he was like, no, not really.
Is
So I
that
think,
code? Is that code for you going, honey, time to get a job?
well, he was like golfing every day, living his best life, and all of his friends he kept telling everybody he was retired. I'm like, you're not retired. You're on a break. You're pausing.
Yeah, you're having a gap year.
That's right. You're having a gap years.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, if you can't enjoy it, well, then why not?
Yeah, and I think he was really scared to be like, if I go back, like if you think about our emotions and how we process things, fear, worry, doubt, all this trepidation you have, he just knew he didn't want to feel like that anymore, and he associated that with work. So he was like, if I go back to work, I'll feel like that. And I think it took him finding the courage to find his own voice in the world for him to go, oh no, I am who I am. I can set boundaries. I can be of service. I can be a leader. I can show up, and I don't have to let it like destroy who I am and how I view the world and myself. So I think that was a big lesson for him too.
That is a huge lesson for the majority of the population, and I think I love that you shared that lesson. That was also my lesson. I think there's this big misconception of where we give so much of ourselves to other parts, like whether it's going to be the job or the career, and that becomes such a big part of our identity that we lose ourselves, and we don't set those energetic boundaries, and we lose ourselves. That's what happened to me. I lost myself in the job trying to do the right thing.
Hmm.
which turned out to be not the right thing because it's going the other way. But I love that. And, one of the biggest areas that I'm taking people into now with the energetics is like, and I show them this and I give them the techniques to just slow them down. And within like
Yep.
10 minutes, they can connect for themselves. And it's
Yep.
like, you've got to understand this because every time I'm talking or I'm connecting, even on stage or whatever else, I say to people, remember, what's the language of the soul? And the people are like, oh, well, it's like, it's like, it's feelings and emotions. Feelings and emotions are the language of the soul. Like,
Yeah.
that's the deepest and most purest part of us all. And when you think about it, when we leave, and like I always say, and like, some people get to think it's a bit crude, but I just say, when you unzip and you jump out of this meat suit, what's left of you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's your emotions, it's your memories. And memories are emotions, they're feelings. That's all you have left. And whatever the beautiful things that we connect with, if when clients pop up and we, connect with them and their loved ones, it's the memories and it's the emotions and the feelings that they carried. Not, not it's not the 401 accounts, it's
Yeah.
not the house,
Yeah.
it's not the cars, it's not this.
It's not your
So
title.
no, and it's
Yeah.
not how many college degrees you've got or whatever. It's none of that. Like, so it comes down to all of that, and that's where it's about acknowledging where we really are. And I love taking people down that path now of
Yeah.
let's get into here before we get into here, because
Totally.
if you're not right here and you're not right here, all of this out here in the external, when you're looking to channel or connect, it's going to mean nothing. It's going to like it's a very hard journey when you're kind of not in alignment with yourself trying to channel or work in the energetic world. It's really, really tough.
I like to help people learn how to just connect, get their own signs, synchronicities. That's what I
Mm.
teach my course on, just how you can connect just one-on-one with your own team and spirit, learn
Yep.
your own language,
Yeah.
And I had a client, I was doing a live training and she literally said, Kara, I didn't know I was signing up for therapy, but I feel like I'm in like deep
Um,
therapy, like I'm doing the work. And I was like, well, you can't really truly open up and receive if you don't release
work.
what limits you and raise your vibrational energetic state. And those take
Hmm.
work. You have to do those two steps
The
before you
inner
do the
work.
third one. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
dangle the carrot of the signs and synchronicities and feathers and words and all the things.
Kara,
But if you
you're
want
giving away
that,
our
you got to do
secret.
the other stuff. I know. But she was like, I feel like I'm in therapy. But then at the end, she gave me like the best review of anybody,
Yeah.
Like she's like, I didn't know I needed to do all this work to really open
Yeah.
up this kind of communication with my team and spirit.
And it is like, I'm thinking, shh, don't say too much. People are going to get that. But no, because
I'll
it is.
give
It's like,
away the farm. Come on in.
no, it's just, see, I purposely don't give away the farm on that point because it's like, because a lot of people, if they really knew what was involved,
Yeah.
so many people walk the other way.
Well, the good part is I tell them, like it's all in my
Oh,
marketing.
you're good. You're
It's
nice.
just that
I'm the opposite.
they don't realize it. They just see the end step and they're like, that one. Yep, that's yeah. I got to release stuff. Got it. Right. And
Yeah,
they just don't know what that means. But then when they're in the work, they realize how powerful, important it is.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's like, because I love it because like one of the big things that I like to help people with is, as we often get told, and I know that we believe, like, we talked about it a little bit, I think, before we hit the record button, but it was almost like, it's that dharma or it's that soul mission,
Yes.
that soul purpose. And I know that a lot of people are going, I'd love to know what that is. That's where I help people uncover
Yeah, I love
a
that.
lot of that, because it's like the soul and energy, like, it's just, I love this stuff. I cannot, talk enough about this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but helping people to tune into that, but again, by also helping them to remove some of those little blocks or whatever else that are happening in between them.
Yes.
Because, it's it's the head, I tell you. It's
Well,
like,
and we do it too. I have fear, and
totally. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I teach people how to release fear. Well, I'm all sitting in the sphere, Kara. Get it together. you know.
Oh, like, I
So
don't know how many times I get that, what I call it, the self-spiritual bitch slaps. It's like,
Yeah.
damn it. It's like, I should have known that. But
you
we're
also
human
coined
beings.
this phrase that I'm obsessed with because we were talking about this privately too. But
Yeah.
you were talking about soul sugar. So you
Oh,
gotta tell
soul
people what
sugar,
that. Yeah, tell people what that means.
Oh, yeah, so, like,
Like
this
those
is only...
drops of wisdom,
No, like, yeah, no, it is. It's like, I was just listening to another podcast, and it was like, and I was in there, and it was one of those things purely guided to, as we were talking to, is like, and I had a longer drive, and I love when I've got a longer drive, I'm like, cool, I don't mind listening to the tunes, but sometimes you're like,
Yeah,
I need something more. So I'm like, okay.
totally.
And I have to admit, so on the long drive out, which is probably about 90 minutes out, not super long, but it's enough. I was like, no, I had my music and I was just chill. And I had a really beautiful moment because I was like, I can actually enjoy this drive today because it was before then, because I was actually driving out to a new house where we had built. And it's been super stressful over the last few months trying to get all that done, building, whatever else. But anyway,
Hmm.
so today was like, it was more of a final thing. And so I was like, oh, and I was just really chill. So anyway, went that. But on the way back, I was like, okay, something was stirring and I could feel it. I was like, I need something more. And I'm like, and I I was like, cool, I'll find a podcast, I'll have a look. And I knew then I'm like, I'm not just gonna hit play. I want to find something that I feel like will relate to me. And of course, go on James is like, because I love business, because obviously this is now like a real time, full time business for me, has been for the last 10 years, and I'm always looking to make it grow, and find better ways of doing it. So cool. And this particular podcast was,
Yeah, it's the Mind Your Business
Mind Your
podcast by
Business
James
podcast.
Wedmore. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely guy, and he's like, and I love this because he talks about like how, like, in this particular podcast, it was with James Wedmore and Catherine Azarenka, which is the manifestation babe.
Manifesting babe. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did go to hit, and it was like how to blend business with spirituality,
Yeah.
with James Wedmore and Catherine Azarenka. The manifestation babe. So it's cool. I'm like,
You're like, oh, that sounds
okay.
good.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll work with that. And I was about like number 5 on the list because anyway, so I literally did. I went to hit part 1 because it's a 2-part series, and no different to what's happening here, guys. Like, James and Catherine can talk, like just talk. And that's why it was a 2-part series. But this 2-part series, I'm pretty sure each episode was just over an hour. So
Yeah,
it's a 2-part
they were.
series. So anyway, and I did. I was like, okay, hit part 1. Well, no. I don't know whatever happened. I don't know, but it went straight to part 2. So I got launched
You
straight
do
into part
know.
2. Yeah, I do know now. And I was like, I'll just let it play. I can't be asked trying to. So anyway, so I was listening to it, and it got into some really amazing stuff. It was, it was again relating around Dharma, which is a big thing for me at the moment.
Yeah.
And helping to help myself understand it a little bit better.
What does that
and
mean,
also,
by the way, for people that
so
don't know what that word means?
yeah, well, it is. So I introduced this word. I started throwing this out at my one-day workshop last week with my people, and then it's so funny. He's an old client of mine. He's a lovely guy, and he's really open up to his spiritual side. Anyway, I was talking to him about it the night before, over other spirits. And anyway, the next day he goes, "Oh, it means soul mission and soul purpose." And he goes, but I had to look that up last night. So I said, so you're sitting there going, yep, the Dharma. He had no idea what I was talking about. God love him. But it was just like, it was so funny. But he says, yeah, so it means soul mission and soul purpose. And you can start, stretching on that of kind of going soul alignment. It's really, but it goes that little bit further of you are really living it.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, you find your soul purpose and you're, working at your soul purpose. The Dharma aspect is you're on that path. You are 100% aligned with it. And it's as if, and we came up with a beautiful description in this one-day workshop, actually, because I said, if we look at this word, I started to ask the group, who in your mind and who in your world is living their Dharma? And all of a sudden, the group was like, ooh, it was a big question of like, yeah. So it was really quite fascinating to see where, people come up with. One of the first ones was actually Martin Luther King. And I thought, very, very powerful. Like, it's there. So we come up with, like, Tony Robbins made a mention there as well. Like I had, one couple of the people that always ring in my mind, always, believe it or not, Princess Diana. And Mother Teresa, okay, she's up there as well. Just a couple of these different people. And anyway, there's a whole bunch of people. And then when we looked at this whole pool of people, I said, now let's have a look. Oprah Winfrey made the list. I was just writing down what people thought. Yeah. And so we're just looking at this list. And I said, so if they're all living their Dharma, how would you then break this down and explain this to a 10-year-old child what Dharma is? because I'm like, that's what we should be able to break it down to, because it shouldn't be a fancy word, right? So it's like, if I had to explain this to my son's 11, so he's
Yeah.
turning 11 this week. But it's like, I said, if I had to explain this to him, how would you, if we had this list of people and he goes, oh, I've heard of them. Oh, I've heard of them too. Or why did you write all these people's names down? I said, what would you say? You're not going to say, oh, they're living their Dharma,
Yeah.
because he wouldn't really know what that means. So it's really beautiful contextual conversation we'll have to come up with our own version of what it means. And what we landed on, which was beautiful, was they all live and breathe what they do every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
They live and they breathe it every day. And it's not like they switch it on or they switch it off or they
Right.
do it when it suits them. They are living it every day and fulfilling that purpose because it meant something to them. So that's what
Okay, I'd like to tweak it a little.
Go
You
for it.
ready? You can tell me no. I like it the way it was. Okay. I think it's when people are living and breathing who they are versus what they do. So I think people have this huge false sense of alignment that my job and how I clock my hours is my purpose. And they're trying to figure out their life's
that.
purpose and their soul and who are they and what are they supposed to be doing. They're like, I think I have to quit my job. I think I have to go on this sabbatical. I think I need to go do this thing. And I truly believe that that isn't true. Like for some people it is, but I think people automatically think if I'm going to go on this journey inward, I probably have to completely change my whole life and, goes, meditate in a cave for a year and do all these things. And people, they think that that's not possible to live my day-to-day life and live my Dharma. And I don't think that's true. I think it's how you show up as who you are and how you shine your light in the world is how you're in alignment. That's what I think. So it doesn't have anything to do with what you do for a living. It's how you do it.
It's like you're living and breathing. So it's interesting. I love the way you're using the words there, taking that one level above, now we're probably jumping into adolescence age of how we can break it down. But it's great because we get a little bit more contextual. So it's like, if I was explaining this to a little kid, it's like, you're living and breathing like everything. And I love that because you explain the difference there between who you are versus what you do. But ultimately for me, if you're in Dharma, both of those things are completely interlinked.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
Just
it's
what
they're not separate.
who you are is what you do.
What you do. It's really hard to describe, isn't it?
Yeah, because even I used to do consulting work, and there was this what do you call it? Valet driver. I used to work with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, which was really fun. I was in my 20s and I stayed at Ritz-Carltons all over the country. That was pretty fun. And he was like the most joyful person ever. Like he just loved to help you and loved to serve you, and it lit him up, and you could feel it. When you can tell when people are so joyful and just so in love with who they are. And it's like, if he didn't have a fancy job, he wasn't some celebrity, he wasn't some person the whole world knew, but he impacted people's lives every single day, and he loved the way that he could bring joy into people's lives every single day, and that's so cool. It's like you don't have to be Oprah Winfrey to shine your light in the world. Go ahead though. I mean, I'm not going to turn down $1 billion, but
But that's the whole thing. But it's like obviously using it for the conversation, kind of go, okay, where are our minds at? The great thing is people actually did come up with their own, and it's like the room is like, who are they? So it's just for that group collective, using that. But the whole thing is, and this is we're probably going down a totally different segue here with it. But hey, look, we just go where the flow goes. But it's really interesting because it is absolutely 100% correct with the fact of it's just, and I love that because the who and the what are completely interlinked. And then it's about, and I loved how you said that, then comes the how. So it's the who and the what is the external thing that everyone sees. For yourself on the inside, it's your why. Most people are not willing. So I always find in terms of vibration and frequency, when you're talking to people or connecting with people, it's the what, the when, and the where. That's the superficial level. It's like it's on the face.
Yeah.
But then it's the why and the how. Now you're getting into that person. You're really getting into it. And you need to discover those things. And I love that because the who and the what just naturally happens for you. Your why is really where the dharmic aspect comes from, because you're going, it's like even when you get to that point, it's like I'm doing this because this is why I'm doing it. That
Yeah.
the who and the what don't even matter by then because you feel it 100%. It's and that's a very it's beautiful because unfortunately you weren't there for it, but in I had this is what kind of awoken me a little bit further into my business journey, but also my dharmic journey. So it was April last year. This was my first retreat with James, and we did a small exercise just looking at limiting beliefs. It was around money, and
Yeah.
I found one. I didn't. It wasn't anything huge, but I was like, oh, that's lingering there. I didn't know I had that. Okay, so that
Yeah,
inner work that we were
totally.
just talking about before,
It,
guys. It's therapy. It's
yes.
therapy.
You're on there, Rick. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's spiritual therapy. Anyway, so
But you do. You find those little
you
like
find little
nuances
things.
all the time. Like, oh, okay. Let me go a
Yeah,
little deeper on that. So
yeah, you
you found
do.
a little money one. Okay.
Found a, yeah, because that was the context of the
Of
exercise with
that.
the group at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what was interesting is it kind of like it wasn't so much the money. It brought up another thing. So what it originally was for me was and it's nothing bad. Don't get me wrong. So guys, this is what's interesting. Like you don't know what you're carrying. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what little labels or what little sticky notes have ended up sticking them to you throughout your life. And all of a sudden, your wall's covered with all these different notes and messages from all these different people in your life that you've intertwined with. And so sometimes when you actually take time to look at that wall, you're going, oh my God, why is that up there? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and that's when you kind of go, right, I'm going to take that down and have a good look at it. And that's what happened here. So for me, the little money belief was that and it was. I constantly remember my parents saying it. It was almost like, it doesn't matter what happens, as long as you've got enough to take care of your family, everything will be okay. And that
Mm.
was this little belief. I was like, it just popped up, and I was like, and it's interesting too because then I realized, I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing my entire life. I had always been doing enough
To
just
take
to
care of your
take
family.
care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it was just
Mm.
it's a really weird thing because you go, oh, like
You're like,
and
it's
I'm
not
not
a
saying
bad thing. It's not
it's
like you're,
not a
it's a,
bad thing, yeah,
but you're
but
making some awareness on
it is
what limitations am I putting on myself because
exactly,
that belief is there
yep,
somewhere.
yeah, and you just don't even I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like because
Same.
it's just and because it's I definitely don't see that as a negative. Like I still love that saying in a sense, like because it
Yeah.
is family means the world to me. I'll
Or it
always
just
do enough to
means
be
it's okay. You don't have to be the richest
Mm,
person in the world to care
exactly.
well for your family,
Yeah,
like you're doing, basically, I take it as life is pretty good. If you can take care of your
you know
family,
what, yeah.
then, life's pretty good. That's kind of
So
the good
and so this
message of
is
it. Yeah.
so this is what's interesting, right? Because so and this is it's actually a good thing to talk about here because guys, it doesn't always have to, it's not like always heavy stuff. It's
Yeah.
not always it's not like super traumatic. It's just these little things because I'm like, but maybe this has been stopping me in my own little way of just
Hmm.
being able to get that little bit further forward in something or whatever else. But anyway, so I was working through that, which is really, really powerful. Lovely process. But then then something it was almost like I took that sticky note off the wall and then I looked at that and I was like, ooh, something, the awareness was grabbing me there. And I was like, and I was almost in my mind's eye, I'm looking at this statement and I wrote it down. And I was like, and it was so fascinating because the lovely lady sitting beside me, Christine Stubblefield, she's awesome. And she's like, because she's living in Kentucky. And the accent for me is like, it's just awesome because I'll never forget it. And she's like, just get out. Like, you got the same thing as me. You got the same thing. I got this enough word too. And I was like, and it's just like, I'm thinking, we had almost the exact same statement, even though we were going through it all in our minds. And when
Hmm.
we had to read it, we had the same statement. So no such thing as coincidence. But anyway, so and then I said to her, I said, is it just me or is like, this word's really annoying me? And that word was enough.
Hmm.
And she was like, you're right. Anyway, we were stuck on this word and I was like, nah. Anyway, so I was like, I'm not a big person to take up everybody's time because I'm usually pretty good at self-awareness, but at this point, I needed help. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I need help with this. So, this is what happens when you're there. Like, cool. Poor old James, I hunted him down. Anyway, and he summed it up in 5 minutes. And it was talk about a bomb going off in my head.
What was the
So
aha for you?
So the way he said it, and he, as I just described, I worked through this. I understand this statement. Da, da, da. I said, but there's something about this, and he goes, right. He goes, let me. He goes, I'm going to say something, and he goes, you let me know if it's right or wrong. And he simply said, he goes, let me guess. Up until now, you have been in the push energy, which means you've got to get this and you've got to get this happening. And then by the time you got to this, you got to save this amount of money. You got to do, and you got to get this, you got to get the house, or you got to, get the car, or you got to whatever. Da, 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 da. And he says, you've been really everything that has been driving you up until this point has been in what he calls the push energy.
Mm.
And I was like, I thought about it for a second and I was like, you know what? I think that's accurate. Because it's like, I've always been meeting these goals. I've always been looking at these goals. I need these goals, whether it's a personal goal, business goal, family goal. There was always, okay, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. Okay, maybe we want a family holiday. Okay, we're going to do this. So it's always like just constantly. Now, it's interesting too, because then I'm like, wow, every time I had one of those, I would do enough to get to that goal. And then I'd wait for the next goal and I'd do enough to get to that goal. Then I'd do enough to get to the next one and whatever else. So I was constantly doing this. But then came the real, like, mind-blowing aspect. And he says, but guys, let me now. He goes, right now, though, that's not enough. And I was like, he says, you're in no man's land. And I was like, oh, as soon as he said those words, even though I didn't fully comprehend them at the time.
Yeah, what did that mean to you?
It was boom. It was like, it hit me so much in the chest. And it was this space of, he goes, you're
like
done with that.
Autopilot or like,
no,
what do you mean by that? Okay.
So I'll explain the whole thing and then we can kind of come back and delve into it. So it makes it a little bit easier to understand. And I have done a full podcast on this because it's a deep one. But the whole thing is like, so he described it and he goes, so up until this point, it's been push, 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 push. Get to here, get to there, get to that. He goes, right now, like you're in no man's land, which means those pushing or those goals are no longer enough for you to move forward. He goes, but the trouble is, so he goes, right now, all of those goals, they've been your rocket fuel. They've been the things to propel you. They've been the things to drive you forward in your business, drive you forward in your personal life, everything. Then all of a sudden, that just, you're tired. So, and he says, so now he goes, you're in no man's land, which means you're kind of floating. It's not autopilot, you're floating and you're going, well, that doesn't do it for me anymore. Right? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't like that anymore. I'm done. But then you're like, but where am I going? What do I do? How do I do it? You're kind of left with this, and it feels like a massive
what's the no goal? That's what I need to know.
So, but then he said, what you're looking for, he goes, is you're looking for your pull energy. You're looking for that thing that just resonates so much inside of yourself that every day you wake up, you have that fuel's ready to go. You don't even have to build it. You don't even have to store. It's just there for you to go. And that goal, that ultimate goal, hence we're talking a little bit about the Dharma or about that, it just wakes you up and it pulls you towards it rather than you work towards it. And I was like, wow. And even at that point, I'm like, I have felt some of that before, but it was just interesting, like, whatever, through life processes, I kind of ended up in this no man's land. So that's where it has been almost for the last 2 years. So my first thing, I got that, was like, it was huge, like, boom. And I was like, but then the hard part is like, so how do you get to the out of no man's land?
into what propels me forward, yeah.
Well, it was interesting, like, even James, it was very nice and to say, he says, but be careful. No man's land is dangerous. He goes, I know because I've been there. And I have to confess, I absolutely know what he means. Because when you're in no man's land, it's another deeper level of figuring out who you are, why you're here, what you're doing. Even though it's kind of weird, you think you've had it, or you've got a knowing. You've had little like lights shining here and there to let you know you're on the right path. But this is a whole different level.
Yeah.
This is a whole different way of being. And that's exactly what it is. That's right. Yeah, it's like the energetics. It's about who you are being in this space, and that's where it's kind of unfolding. And that's where, like, even now, like this year, that's I'm starting to see that and understand that. And I'm like, oh wow, like what a journey. But it's
Yes.
also a deeper understanding of, and that's what it kind of came down to. Like, it's the what, it's the who, it's the how, and it's who you are being. It's the being that you are in everyday life, and you can tell by the right people. And it doesn't matter where they are. They don't have to be well known. It could be just a beautiful place. Like, I was at a funeral yesterday for my great auntie, and I loved it because she was a special woman, because everyone knew her, and she would always make time for everyone. And it
Mm.
was just like, the words that were said about her were so true. It's like, you know what? And she's always like, no, there's always somebody else who is worse off than you. And she would always make time, even though she might not have had the money, or she might have, she was raising seven kids by herself as a widow, but she always managed to give. She
Yeah.
was
Isn't that
always managed to
beautiful?
be there. It is. And, when you hear those words, you go, that's her. That sums up her. And you know what? She was in that space. She was shining her light in that way, and,
Yeah.
embodying all of that and being a nurse and whatever else. So she was living in her way. And like you were
I
saying before, you don't have to be the Oprah Winfrey, even though
Yeah, exactly. I do
Yeah.
think one of the ways you can identify this, if you're trying to figure out, like, well, am I or am I not? If you're oftentimes thinking about, well, when I get here, when I do this, when I
Mm.
whatever, then I will allow myself to feel this way, have this thing, do this thing, experience this thing. Like, if you're in this space of like, when this happens, then I'll feel like I've made it, or I'll feel like I've, achieved things or things like that. That's a really good indicator that it's time to do some inner work. Because I truly think that's like the culprit of, especially being in the United States, like the corporate America world is like, go achieve, consume, consumerism, go, 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 go. It's like, just like this, it's like the little engine that could nonstop for your whole life. And it's like, if you can learn to like live your joy today and feel the way you want to feel about your life
Mm.
today, regardless of what the external gratifications of that are, then you're on the right path. That's what I think, anyway.
No, now I love this, because now we're going to jump into a little bit of a cultural aspect. So, to give you a little bit more context, right? So, I get that, like, the American culture is the go, go, go. And it's really interesting sitting across from the other side of the Pacific Ocean watching that. There's a lot of that we're going, oh, I wish we had more of that here. See, whereas
We were
here,
like, I wish I had 6 months of maternity leave.
well, we get paid for that now. But it's interesting because, like, it's almost the opposite here, though. So whereas, what I was talking about, like that enough word in
Yeah.
Australia, it's like we just do enough to make sure we can have the lifestyle that we want.
And ours
And
is, it's never enough.
now, isn't it? See,
Yeah.
this is
So it's
the you've got to factor a little bit of
the
cultural aspect in,
right.
yeah.
But the
But
word still
it
resonates.
is. It is.
Yeah.
And that's mean. Like, enough is. It's. I tell you what, this word has haunted me for the last 2 years, because, like, oh,
Yeah.
whenever it pops up. But it's like, even saying, when I do this, when I say, well, is that gonna be enough? And you can ask yourself, and you'll feel it straight away, and you'll be like, no. You'll know within yourself any of those.
Yeah.
But and I love that, because for you guys, it's more like, you can ask yourselves the when. And I think for us, it's like, it's more about, for us, I think we need a greater level of awareness here. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like we have a lot, because we're more about lifestyle and just enjoying our lives, which is great. Don't get me wrong. It's very nice to have that. And we're all about that. But at the same time, I find there's a lot of people that there's a real lack of drive. There's a real lack of
Mm.
wanting to go to that space or to go deeper within, but I'm okay. I've got my life. I feel good. And it's interesting, like, it's just a cultural observation that I've
Yeah.
had.
Interesting. Because
Yeah, and it's kind of like,
I just took roughly, I worked for a few days in between, but roughly I just took 4 weeks off to enjoy the summer with my kiddo. And we were in Minnesota, we were in Colorado, we were like living our best lives. I dressed up like a prairie girl, like Little House on the Prairie, with my high school friends. I'll show you a
yeah.
picture when we're in California. And I
Look
just,
forward to that one.
yeah, live my best life. It was so fun. But I had to consciously give myself permission, like consciously over and over again, to be like,
Yeah.
you're not lazy. It's okay. rest is normal. Taking a vacation or a holiday is just fine. And I've been doing the work. I've been doing the inner work for like 10 years, and I've been doing this like public spiritual work stuff for like 4. And I still had to remind myself that it's okay to give
Oh,
yourself permission to take a break. Because it's so ingrained in our American culture that like you shouldn't do that for too long. You'll lose your edge.
you lose your itch. It is well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because you got to say it's okay. Now, I'm super aware and very, very, very mindful of having that balance, and I teach a lot of people about that. And it's interesting. So, kind of going back, probably closer to 3 years ago, but even probably going back to 2019, I really hit a great groove. I had a fantastic balance in my life. I was, I can take myself back there instantaneously and going, that was a really high vibing period of my life,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was walking on the beach every morning. I was just, my awareness was up. Like, I was passing words of wisdom because it was just, the inspiration was there. Fishing's my hobby as well. I was fishing on a regular basis, because fishing's where I get out of my head. So it's like because I just focus on the water and nothing else pops into my head, not even spirit. It's like, no, I'm with nature. I'm one. It's like, shh, like quiet time. It's my meditation.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too. So, but then as things kind of ramp up, and like obviously, in business and whatever else, it's the same thing. It's just been interesting. I'm like, oh, I'm getting that the scales are tipping again, and you got to remind yourself, hang on. So for me, the big kind of things like that, saying, remember, come back to it. It's like a
Yeah.
key word for me that's really popping up is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Like simplicity, 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 simplicity. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it as simple as possible. That's been coming up a lot, so I can get that balance back, because
Yeah.
it's so true. Like I feel like I'm super grateful because I can take a day when I want to take a day. I don't need
Hmm.
to take, or say, yes, I need to go to the doctors and get a doctor's certificate. Downside, of course, is if I don't work a lot of the time, then so especially because most of my business is live events. So obviously, I'm technically part of the entertainment industry because
Yeah.
I'm going around to different theaters and doing stage work. And so obviously, if I'm not doing that, then obviously, the income kind of stops a little bit. But at the same time, I find that balance, and it's like it's nice enough for me. But it is so true. Like when you're having those moments, like you were having on the prairie, you're going to show me that photo, by the way. I'm
Oh,
gonna.
you're gonna die. My mom made all of our dresses. Like
Oh, really?
they're
Oh, wow.
long dresses. They're legit. Like they're little. We went to
Hey,
the 50th anniversary of the Little House on the Prairie show. You probably don't even know what that is. It's an American like prairie show from like the 70s and 80s, and it was amazing. I'm gonna show you right now because you're just gonna die. You're not gonna even believe this.
I was going to say, I'm thinking, hang on, if your mum's made these dresses, I'm thinking there's got to be a bigger setup here. Oh, wow. But that's a really beautiful photo. I love that.
In a
Because
full-on prairie dress, head to toe.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you're on the prairie with the flowers and everything in the
That
background.
actually was the spot where the Little House on the Prairie books were written. Like that's the actual
Okay.
spot of their very first sod house, back in
Okay.
like the late 1800s or something. Anyway,
Okay. What was the connection there though? Because obviously there's a bit more thought into this. This is not just, that's when you said your mum's made these dresses. I'm thinking, hang on,
okay.
this is not just a random photo that you and your friends have gone up here to
No,
do and take. So
no,
what's the
no, it is
backstory?
not. My high school friend Tracy is absolutely banana pants. I can't really. She's just here. I'll show you. This is all of us together. Let me see. Uh, this is all of us in our prairie dresses. Like legit, we're
Uh,
all rocking it. Well,
I love
anyhow,
it.
she's highly intuitive, highly gifted, but she's a nurse, so
Oh, wow.
I probably am like letting the cat out of the bag, but whatever, I'm going to. But she'll like intuitively know things, and she'll tell the doctor, run a CT scan. And she's like, I don't know, I just think we should. And so she uses her intuition all the time in healthcare, and she works in emergency rooms, and she just like intuitively knows, and she can see people's bodies leave themselves and crazy shit like that.
Well,
Anyhow,
that goes beyond intuition. That's can be a
yes.
deep
Okay, but she doesn't really tell anybody. So now people, if they associate us, then they'll be like, what? You know, this podcast. Anyway, she always has these crazy
Sorry,
ideas.
Tracy.
Sorry, love you, Trace. She always has these crazy ideas. We get together a couple times a year because we kind of live all over the place. And so, oh, this is great because you're Australian. Okay, so we did we went to a state called Iowa, and we went to the bridges of Madison County, which are basically all of these country bridges, and we like took pictures by them, and we did like senior picture photos like by the bridges like this and stuff like that. Anyhow, then the next year we went to a casino, took the place by storm, and we went to a Thunder Down Under strip show. So we had to see the Australian strippers. So that was the next year. And I was like, oh, Lord, God help us. You know, my friend's like, they have Tito's vodka on the gun. And I was like, oh, God, we're going to get arrested. It's going to happen. I don't know what's going to go on. So that was the next year. And then this year, she was like, I love Little House on the Prairie. And we're going to go to the reunion. And we're going to go, all of the actors did a panel interview. And so we went and saw all these actors in the middle of nowhere, like in this little country town, all dressed up. So then we were all dressed up. And then I have a giant like F-150 Ford truck. So we would go in the truck, turn the air on, like shotgun a White Claw or whatever cocktail we had, and then go back out and be like, pretty dresses and whatever. So we were, I don't know. It was just one of those things, but those are like memories that last a lifetime. Yeah, it was amazing. We have the best time. They're like the most amazing group of friends ever. And it's always an adventure. So you never know what we're going to do. Like I think this next time we're going to go to an NFL football game, like an American football, professional football game.
Yeah. Well,
but it's always something.
Very different from going to revisit and relive the prairie.
That's right. Exactly. So everyone's like, I don't really get you guys. And you're like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't get us either, but we love it.
But honestly,
you know, it's just what brings us joy.
Yeah, spontaneity, fun, and joy. That's also part of the soul sugar.
Exactly. And my mom made all our dresses. All of them were like very kind of proper. And then Tracy, the captain of the ship of this like shit show shenanigans that we are, said, I would like mine to be a little sluttier. And my mom is like very wholesome, And she lives on a farm. My mom does. And she's just like, Tracy, that won't be authentic. She's like, Karen, I got to get the boobs up and out. You got to get them going. So my mom like did it lower, and she's like, lower. And she's like, I'm going to have a corset underneath. The ladies are going to be up. And she was like, I need a slit up to my hip bone, Karen. So my mom made hers, and she's like, you're going to be like, this would not be authentic. And she goes, I don't care.
I'm thinking she's going a little bit more for the old Western saloon style.
Correct. Yes.
She's not the prairie style. I think she's got the wrong era.
Yeah, her word. She's like, I want to be a prairie town whore. That's what I want.
Look, I hate to say it. That's where my mind's going. Like, we're sounding like, we're walking in the dusty saloon. We've had a long horse ride and going, it's like, I need myself some company.
That's right. And then the funniest part of the story is on our way back, because we rented a house about an hour from where this festival was. We stopped at this little town bar that was not associated with the festival. Yeah. And we just went in, and we're like, we would like to order a cocktail, and we want some gambling pull tabs. And the people are like, their eyes are like this big. They're like, who are you? And what are you doing? And we just stayed in character, no big deal. Yeah. We're like, this is what we want. We're like, is there something wrong with my dress? Like, what, is there a problem? So anyhow, we had the best time, but those are the friends that I sit around the fire pit and do readings for too. Same group.
No.
But so anyhow,
it's the joy and it's joy and spontaneity, and it's just like, it's things like that too. It just brings you back to yourself, and that's again kind of coming back. It's like talking about the soul sugar, and it's like having those doses where it's just like, this feeds me, like, and and it's like it's stuff where it just feels easy, it feels light, it feels fun, like
it brings you joy,
and it's all of those things. It's like the more you can tap into that. I think the better off that the world would be. So many people are missing joy and happiness in the world. But
I hadn't laughed that hard in a long time. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, I have to do a little bit of one thing I do with every single person that I talk to is like these rapid fire favorite things questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, and you have to just think first whatever comes up top of mind. Okay,
this is dangerous.
Correct. Well, we just talked about prairie horse, so I mean, whatever.
So like, you have not laid a good foundation for this exercise.
I mean, we're also talking about energy and alignment and being in flow state. It's like balance. It's balance.
But all I keep thinking is, I feel like Tracy. Oh my God, I'm so sorry right now. You're gonna get aired out here.
Oh, she won't care. She'll be like, yes, make me famous. Loves it.
At the same time, I'm like, I need to have a drink with this Tracy.
Oh. You know what? We should have brought her on the pod. I keep telling her I'm going to have her on the podcast because she has the craziest stories, and she's the most fascinating person I've ever met in my entire life. Yeah, you would die. You would love her. And when she laughs, she snorts like super loud. Like it's just she's the best. Anyway,
Cool.
I will introduce you to her, or we'll call her when we're together. I'll call her. Yeah, you'll love her.
All
Okay,
right.
what is your favorite food?
Oh, favorite food. Oh,
Please don't say like Vegemite or something nasty like that.
No. Ultimately favorite. It's really weird. Like, it's funny when well, I don't know whether this is my intuition trying to speak. This is what's good for me now, but
Yeah.
no. But like one of my favorite foods that I really do enjoy, believe it or not, is like Japanese eel.
Oh, never have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I have. Like in sushi, like do you
No,
do it raw
no,
or you cook it?
it's you cook it, and it comes in a very special marinade, and it's more of a freshwater eel, but it's got no bones. It's very nice and it's very tender. And also when they cook it, it also gets not just with the marinade, but it also gets simmered in sake. So it comes up. It's really flavors and robust. And I think it's become my favorite food because it was something that I never would have had here.
Yeah.
And of course, Western cultures is a bit more like they'll do smoked eel or whatever else. And,
Yeah. Right.
but I come. So my family heritage is like Welsh and English. So we weren't the Dutch and stuff with the do smoked eel. But having that experience in Japan, it's like just really have loved it. And of course, I do love Japanese food, just naturally in general. But eel is it's up there as one of my favorites. So
That's first time on this pod for that answer. I'd just like to say.
It's like I do. I go out of my way to eat it. Like,
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. Of like I do like sushi and sashimi as well, but yeah, eels up there.
Love it. Where's your favorite place to travel, or a place that you're really desiring to travel sometime soon?
Oh, it's the Viking Circle. I'm being drawn more and more to it as like I've been looking. So I've got the Viking Circle, which is for me. So that's Norway, Iceland, and from I can't remember when, Greenland. Now it's the most random spot I'm like, but I've always wanted to go to Greenland, and now obviously it's getting more and more possible with the world opening up. So that's there, and the other one that's on my hit list, which will probably happen before that, is Palau.
Oh, nice.
So Palau, it's just in between, like
it's
just off the side where some people don't know it because it's in the Pacific, but it's just a little bit further west of Guam. So it's again one of those places that's always been on my weird hit list.
Love it. Love it. Love it. What's your favorite holiday?
Context of question.
Oh,
past or type of holiday.
Oh, like type of holiday, like Christmas or for these are American holidays,
okay.
whatever.
I'm glad
Like
I
your
asked the context.
your favorite I don't know how to explain a holiday. Like your favorite celebratory day that people in Australia celebrate or the world.
Yeah,
or your family.
If anything, it'd have to be Christmas, because for Christmas is summer. So we always, it's totally, anybody who comes and experiences Australian summer, a lot of people go, this is not Christmas, because it's not, we don't go out and have massive parades or anything like that, because it's too friggin' hot, especially where I live. So that'd be like having massive Christmas parades in Florida in the middle of summer. So you just kind of don't do it. But it's beach, it's relaxation, it's the barbecues, it's going over to friends' houses, having swimming pools, those kind of connections. So in terms of that, we have that. The one downside is just giving you a bit of a cultural experience here. Like the only other really big day that's really celebrated in Australia, besides the norm, is Anzac Day, and that's the 25th of April, and that celebrates the War Memorial. So that's kind of like our Memorial Day.
Right.
That is very, very big for us. But it's not really celebratory because it's obviously remembrance.
Yeah, more memorial. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but besides that, our holidays are pretty slim. So it's more just,
It's because you're always on holiday. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Most people want to be teachers here because they get a lot of holidays. But no, for me, no, it's Christmas because it's family. So.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. Love that. What about animal or spirit animals? Do you have any spirit animals that you feel like you see this particular animal a lot, or a picture of the animal and it's like your sign or message?
Well, I think the one that's always stuck with me, quite particular, has been the panther. The panther has always been strong. That came to me when I was very young, when I was a teenager. I had that. Then the other spirit animal that really, really shocked me, and this is when you've got to really trust your intuition, people, because we were doing a meditation circle and we're bringing in the animal guides. And this is a nice one because I wasn't actually facilitating, so I could actually really participate and get
Experience
into
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was really good. And so I was going through it, and then as we were meeting the spirit animal, like all I did was I just looked to my shoulder, and I'm like, I was seriously like, WTF, like. Like what? Something like what? And I consider myself to be quite good at symbolisms and
Yeah.
animals. And
Yeah.
anyway, so we're going around the circle, and people have got the hawks, the falcons, or whatever. It gets to me, and I'm like, I have a sugar glider.
What's a sugar glider?
So sugar gliders, tiny little marsupials,
Uh,
like literally no bigger than like probably the cup of your hand. They're
Okay.
the cutest little things. They kind of
Are
look
they
like
a
a little bit
bird?
like a no. They're like a possum.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but they're. I'm just trying to think. I can't think of the American equivalent off the top of my head. But it's like so that they don't get much bigger than like like a
Yeah.
handful,
Okay.
and they've actually got webs, so they glide from treetop
Oh,
to
yeah,
treetop.
yeah.
So but they're very very small. So as a spirit animal kind of coming through, it's like where's this one coming from?
It's your soul
Um,
sugar.
it's so, but what was really fascinating is I didn't know, no one in the group knew because it was just such a random
Yeah.
spirit animal to come up. That's why I've never forgotten it. And when I went off and obviously did the research on it, it was made so much sense because the sugar glider, as we call it, is very much about community and about bringing
Mm,
community together and forming
yeah.
community and whatever else because they're very community animals and very like family oriented animals as well. So, but yeah, they're my like so the panther's always been a strong one. The other one, which is a spirit animal, like in every term of the sense, it's fascinating. It's kind of like it is for me, but it's not me, if that makes sense. So when I really connected with my spirit team and my guides, I was jogging along the path, and then, as in my mind's eye, I literally saw this beautiful sulfur crested cockatoo. So that's a big white
Mm,
cockatoo with the big
yeah.
yellow crest.
Yeah.
And in my mind's eye, it was just like this big cockatoo with its wings out. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Then as I jogged along it went through the park. And now this park has like a big windy path. And it was the most interesting but beautifully bizarre thing was as that happened, and I was jogging along this path, and this is about another 5 minutes after I saw this in my mind's eye. On that path were three big white cockatoo feathers, all in different angles and positions of this park, but
You can't make that up.
on the path, not in the park. It was huge, but they were
Yeah.
all on the path. And that was
Yeah.
my symbol to know that I'm on the path, I'm growing. And that was actually when I was doing that, I was actually in a learning environment. And that's what led me to do all the stage work I do today. So
Oh,
I was
what a
on the
powerful
path.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that sign it's almost like their way of communicating to me going, it's so, you know what I mean? Like it's a sign for me, but it's their sign. So it's another powerful one that I always relate to.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love that.
Mm.
What is your favorite thing about what you do for a living?
What's my favorite thing? Uh, it's like that's changed over the years.
Yeah, of course.
Like yeah, so like it still is kind of great. Like when I do the work that I do, especially when I'm doing stage work, I'm connecting people with loved ones. I love capturing the loved one's personality. That's the one
Mhm.
thing. I'm not massive on super factual details. Like they come through, don't get me wrong, but I love leaning into their personality. And I took the lovely words because when I heard this from Tony Stockwell, I don't know whether you know of Tony Stockwell. He's a UK, very famous UK medium. I had the privilege of meeting him once and working with him for one day and had a great chat with him. And he was like, so Peter, the thing is like our job is to bring them back to life just for those few minutes.
Mm,
And I was like, when I heard that, I'm like, that is so true. And that's what
yeah.
I've always been doing. So I love it when and I had this literally over the weekend. So it's no different to Adam with the bath towel and doing the helicopter move, or on the weekend when I had someone's mother come through, and she literally leant in, and just the way she goes, sweetie, I need to let you know, I've met up with the Queen. I've met her, and she was like, oh my God, that is so my mum. She's like, she goes, just the way you've lent in, the
First
eyes,
stop,
the face. Yeah.
life review. Second stop, hanging with the Queen.
Yeah, so I love that. But interestingly enough now, but in this phase of my journey, honestly, my favorite thing is just helping people to understand and educate. And when I can see people have that shift inside of themselves, that shit, that lights me up. I love that.
Yeah.
I cannot get enough of that. I love helping people in that way. And just when they're ready to do it. And I love it. I just can't, when you see people get it or just have that shift, it's magic for me.
Yeah,
that's soul sugar, baby. That's
soul sugar. Yeah, my dream is that people would never need people like you or me. That they will really truly figure out how to have their own connections and languages. And maybe you do from time to time because you need somebody that's like a PhD level in what you're doing or something. But I really believe everyone has the ability to get messages and connections. And like, I just want people so badly to open themselves up to learning that or discovering that for themselves,
Well, that's why I think I take the approach with more the feelings and emotions. Like, let's start there because let's face it, we all know and cannot deny that we all have feelings and emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's like, that's why, like, that's me. I like that you're very direct going, guys, this is going to be therapy. I'm going to take you down this. I'm going to give away.
I didn't say that. She did. She was like, this feels like therapy. I was like, well, I'm not a therapist, but I am opening you up. Yeah.
Well, look, when you look back on it and you look at human history, there has always been a spiritual leader or consultant in every major civilization and tribal aspect. So it has been around for millennia. This is nothing new, as we, both you and I know, but it's just for the world. Like, this is not new. We've been around way longer than, we can probably even predict. So it's just about, like I said, being open to it. But again, we've all got our own journey on it. But I do believe we're coming up to a massive, big part. And that's why I also love the name of your podcast, the Energetic Podcast, because I can tell you right now, those three words, energetics, vibration, and frequency, over the next 15 years, all you're going to do is the world is going to hear more and more and more and more and more about it. And that's mean the more we can open up people to it, the more we can help people understand it, whether it's in their own time via listening to a podcast or watching YouTube, the better off the world's going to be. I truly believe that.
And you have to do it your own way. Like, again, my husband and I have so many deep conversations because, we see certain things differently, but we hold space for each other, which I love. And he said, I feel like that with like music. Music can do that to me. It gives me goosebumps. I see things I don't normally see. Like, I can go to a place where you can go in your channeling and in your connecting with your team and spirit. I can go there in music in a deeply profound way that I maybe can't otherwise. So I'm always like, just find your jam, find the way that aligns for you and do that. You don't have to do it my way or your way. You do it your way.
And that's why I always say to people, like, it's always about finding out how this works for you.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a doctrination thing. There is, like, you can have certain, like, maybe skill sets, or these might be certain ways to start a process. Or
some foundation blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. But then realistically, I look at that and going, all I'm handing you is a coloring in book. And now it's up to you to color in exactly how you want. And once you figure that out, and I've seen it's been beautiful when I lead people down that journey, like, and I can help them go, well, this is how you're going to be working because this is stronger for you. I go, oh, I never saw it like that. Like, my greatest gift is I've got that many perspectives on things. I've always been able to do that, but helping people to find their own way is huge. That's where we need to be, and that's why I love the kind of space and age that we're in for this kind of stuff. Because,
I know.
You go back even like the 90s when I was kind of delving into this and learning this for myself, because I was only at school and high school, but I was 14 when I opened up to this. So and I was like a high school adolescent. Luckily enough, I was a student enough to go, don't mention this to anyone at
Like,
school because otherwise,
just go into your
yeah, yeah.
curiosity alone.
I'll just be the chameleon at school, and I'll have this self, exploration time, and it's just really weird. Like I was literally going through spiritual exploration, and it was beautiful. Like I'm so thankful for it, but it was tough at the time because I had no one to talk to, had no one to share it
Yeah.
with. No one was even remotely close to understanding about the things I was discovering, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. But at the same time, it didn't deter me, and that's what helped me to find out what works for me. So
Hmm.
it's one of those things at the time, I'm not gonna lie, it sucked because it's like, I want to talk to someone. But that's what made me go deeper. That's what made me
Yeah.
explore. That's what made me experiment. That's what made me try, trying tarot, working with crystals, whatever. I was finding my thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important. Just that's what everybody's got to do.
So find your own inner power.
Well, that's where it kind of comes from. I love the way you say it. Power. Power.
Oh.
You get,
I was like,
punch.
because
It's not a punch.
well, the way that you spell it, I feel like should be said with an Australian accent. I just do,
Well,
and I can't do that. So you got my Midwestern American version of that.
but it's like it's your power. Your power. It's got the punch. You got to put some
That's
punch in the
right.
power.
That's right.
I love that.
Sidebar conversation has nothing to do with spirituality.
No.
I program my GPS to be an Australian man. So I'm like, that's what I want. Yeah, I don't want some like weird English woman telling me to turn left. I want an Australian dude to tell me. So that's why I'm like, oh, I have to have Peter on my podcast. I have to talk to an Australian.
It's just like, well, it's interesting too because the more time I spend overseas, I actually lose my accent.
Yeah, that's what happens to me too. Like I grew up in
Yeah.
Minnesota and it's really long O's and like almost Canadian accent. And every time I talk to my mom, it like comes back.
Yeah, and I had my American friends when I was living in Japan, and I used to come home for Christmas, and I come back. And she goes, I love it when you come back. She goes, you're so Aussie, and you speak so fast. Your accent is so thick, and it's like because again, like when you're in that social connection, and it is like, and I'm from a relatively big family, so I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. So it's like you have to speak fast to keep up
Get
with
your
the
word in.
conversation. Yeah, exactly. So it's really quite fascinating with that. But of course, when you are doing it, you don't ever think of yourself as losing an accent or like going back to your accent until someone makes you aware of it. But I
That's
know
exactly right.
yeah, when I was in Hong Kong, people used to go, are you like English or are you like New Zealander? It's like, no. And that's like, don't ever call an Australian New Zealander. That's like American Canada. We've got the same thing with New Zealand. Don't do it.
Fair.
Yeah. It's just like, how dare you? No. That I got all friendship, neighborhood rivalry. But, one of those things. Reconnection.
Yeah, I was like, oops, I think I just clicked it. Yeah, there we go. Well, we're back, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so it was been amazing to have you on the podcast. I have loved talking to you. I feel like we could literally talk for hours. In fact, we did,
Always.
which is fantastic. How can people connect with you? Like, how can they find you? What type of work do you do with people? Because I know you do a lot more like live events, but people can find their way to work with you as well. Like, just give us the skinny and how people can
sure.
find their way to you.
It's literally in change at the moment, which is good because it's heading into the space that I want it to go. But I am more like obviously good old Facebook and the gram. I'm a little bit more interactive on Facebook because obviously I started on that and whatever else. But I'm on both of those. The TikTok account is there. Someone did say they found me on TikTok the other day. I'm thinking, how did you do that? Because I'm not active. But anyway.
Yeah, same. I have it and I don't ever do anything with it.
But of course, you got, so the book and the gram are the places there. And of course, you can but Inner Powa is spelt with INNAPOWA, just to kind of make it that little bit different for people and complicated. But yeah, so you can find me that. But of course, the website is obviously the main place, and that's just my name. So Peter Williams, Inner Powa. renown.com, and you can do that. So, but at the moment, the great thing is I've got the retreats in Fiji that I do, so which is making it a bit easier from the States because you can get a direct flight from
Amazing.
LA. And the other big thing too is I'm doing more switching into mini retreats, so weekends for people, so they can experience the retreat, doing that beautiful inner work, connecting with themselves, but obviously without the retreat price tag. So, which makes it a little bit more accessible for more people. Because, as I was discussed in my episode that's getting released this week, my number is I want to help 10,000 people.
Oh, amazing.
So I don't have a financial number. That's where I struggled in April because I don't have one. I'm not interested. But I was like, no, 10,000. 10,000 is my number, 10,000 people. And the big thing I'm doing online is the Get Out of Your Head workshop, and that's a 90-minute workshop that I'm doing online for people. So that's
nice.
Literally, it's been built, but I'm just now getting it in flow so I can access people for everywhere. So can't wait. I'm really excited. Got a couple more books on the go, so it's happening. I'm back after 2 years. It's like, here we go. Get ready.
Love it.
Let's get ready to roll. So
I will drop it in the show notes too. Any of the links you want me to send, you let me know and we'll drop them in the show notes so people can find their way to you and get more of you, because you're really one of the most magnetic people and I've always loved talking to you. And you literally are just one of those people that people like flock to, because you have just such a wonderful vibration and light that you shine in the world. So yeah. So thank you. Thank you for being willing to do this.
And it's same to you. I love, it's just one of those things. I just watch you from afar and just watching your light get brighter and bigger every time. So, and it's like, and it's coming. Like, it's just one of those things. Just see it for people. And it's like, oh, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. So you keep shining your light, because it is bright and people need to see it. So keep going as well.
Love it. Thank you, my friend.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.